Did she or did she not do it? That's the question. As now we see Kaitlin Armstrong going to trial, accused of murdering cyclist Anna Moriah Wilson. Why did she do it? Well, it's supposedly a tale of jilted lovers. Her boyfriend at the time, apparently seeing someone else secretly, she found out, and the allegation goes that she went to her apartment and then murdered her. Did that actually happen at the hands of Miss Kaitlin Armstrong? That is the question. Doesn't look very good when you flee to Costa Rica shortly thereafter, change your name, change your identity, and even have plastic surgery to not be recognized. Looks a little bit suspicious, or is it simply the works of someone who sees a lot of accusations coming at them and has no way to defend them? Joining me to discuss, Robin Dreek, retired FBI special agent. Robin, this is a very can look very open and shut depending how you look at it. But if you also kind of take a question to yourself and go, if I was in that situation, I didn't do it. Would I do the same thing? Would I run? Would I try and hide? Because the evidence looks very damning against me. What's your thoughts on this case as the trial begins?
Boy, I hate smiling because these are all tragic cases we deal with. But yeah, what a dumb thing. I
Hmm.
mean, just no, I wouldn't run if you didn't do it. Why are you running?
Yeah.
I mean, you just you it just and I know her defense is saying, "Oh, it's circumstantial evidence. Coincidences teamed up against her." I have a hard time believing it. I mean, the casings from the weapon that was used are in her apartment. I mean, just
Yes.
nah, it just doesn't look. It's yeah, and you don't flee to Costa Rica, go by different names while you're there,
Hmm.
change your look, and then and I think the really telling behavior also is when she's incarcerated. And then she goes on a medical appointment and runs. And just,
And yeah.
if you are truly innocent and you have lawyers battling on your behalf and you have any semblance of trust in our legal system, you don't do those things,
Hmm.
especially since, I mean, so look at this. We talk about my arc of behaviors, which I love. She has an arc of behavior of potentially control issues, I think, especially since she's got access to her boyfriend's cell phones and things like that. But her arc of behavior is pretty consistent with her being a upstanding type citizen. So this is an outlier, at least from what we see from the data points of a behavior. So in other words, her entire life didn't lead up to this, it looks like. And so why would you run? If your defense lawyers are good and this looks like an outlier from your behavior and you are innocent, there's no running. So it's dumb moves, I think.
I think it is a very dumb move. I'm just trying to look at it from another perspective of, playing devil's advocate on it. Some people, they're not going to think that far down the road. They're not going to think, oh, I'm going to have a good defense. Maybe they have no faith in our justice system. Maybe they're just like, look, this looks really, really bad, but I didn't do it. I'm not saying that she didn't do it, but I'm trying to come from that perspective of, what other option do I have? She did travel quite a bit from what we understand previously. Doesn't necessarily mean she traveled and changed identities in other trips, but the fact that she chose Costa Rica to go to as well, from what I understand, and I don't know a whole lot about Costa Rica, but from those I've talked to, it seems like a place where a lot of people want to go to if they have something to hide, because it's not always the easiest to be found in a location like that. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I agree with you on these things. We can reverse that optic and do that thought
Mhm.
experiment where maybe she just wants to get out of town, start a whole new life again because this has been traumatic on her. Okay, I totally get that, and it could be her context,
Mhm.
but you sh- if you want to have a name cleared and you don't want to embroil yourself in a manhunt against you, you don't do those behaviors. Let's get these things cleared first and then move out. Again, you cannot maybe she doesn't have rational behavior going obviously in this case because she's overwhelmed with what's currently going on and so she's not making great choices. But again, the evidence against her is really, really damning at this point. But you never know. There are no open and shut cases. You go where the evidence leads you, and you see what the prosecution and defense brings to bear.
I mean, what's interesting about this is when she went to Costa Rica, she really, other than she changed her name and had plastic surgery, but other than that, she was living a fairly public life. That's what I found kind of odd about this. I would think if you're in hiding, you may not want to be going out to the bars for hip hop night. You may not want to be seen with anyone for at least quite some time. It was only 43 days that she was on the run, but did manage to accomplish quite a bit of in terms of trying to change up who she was to not be recognized in that short period of time. Is that just another poor decision on her part? Are we dealing with someone who just makes really bad choices repeatedly on this?
So, if she was indeed the person that committed this murder,
Hmm.
that tells a lot about a personality that she's kept hidden.
Hmm.
And as we've seen with all the cases that we do, if this was a crime of passion, or even just the fact that, from what we saw from the or heard about the woman screaming about being murdered, and then a final shot going into her heart after one to the, I think, the head, side of the head, one to the back of the head, and then one through the heart after she's already on the ground and dead, presumably. That shows a cold bloodedness that we typically see in our really horrendous murderers.
Hmm.
And a lot of these horrendous murderers are narcissistic. They have elements of psychopathy in them, which is all about grandiosity. Look at me. They are incapable of hiding
Hmm.
over time because those personalities are just so big. They need to have validation, they need to be seen. And so she also might think herself clever enough that, hey, if I just do X, Y, and Z, I'm smarter than everyone else, and I can live a new life with the same personality I had, just with a different name and a different look. Because she's not thinking that it's actually, those are small data points. And think about it. If someone is trying to be someone different, our looks and our name are a very, very small point. Just think about this. When you see a door cam these days, I have door cams all over the place. I go for walks in my neighborhood. I can tell people, and we all can do this. I can tell what my kids, I can tell my kids from a mile away without seeing their face, just by how they look, how they gait, how they interact with others. I play online video games with my son the other night, and even though we have these personas that are completely computerized,
Hmm.
I hear his voice and I see the mannerisms of his character online. Totally not him by looks wise, but I could tell it was exactly my son because the body movements, all these things give our tells away about who we are. And so what she tried to do is she tried to change two small data points of a name and a look, but she didn't change anything else about her behavior arc of who she is, how she interacts, her extroversion that she has, the way she communicates. All these things didn't change. So she's extremely recognizable because those nonverbal behaviors we give off are 85 to 95% our communication style. And so that's what, if you're going to hide, you need to change a complete and do a complete overhaul.
Is this someone who planned this in advance, do you think? Was this just a crime of passion and then suddenly I'm going to go run off and do everything I've seen in the movies? Because that's kind of what this feels like with doing the plastic surgery and things like that. I can't say I've seen that very recently in a case like this where it's a love
Right.
triangle type thing. And we're being so off on her arc of behavior for the other part of her life. I mean, she's only in her mid 30s, but is this the type of person that's, been growing into something like this, and this is just where she burst, and then suddenly this inner part of her comes out after committing a crime like this allegedly?
From the data that we have that's been shared in the media, that's what it looks like.
Hmm.
Again, my conjecture that I do from time to time with you all, it looks like we have someone which is all about control,
Hmm.
because we got some data points on control by having her having access to her boyfriend's texts and cell phone, and shared iPads and things like that shows an element of control. And people that have a higher element of control tend to be enraged when they have a lack of control.
Mm-hmm.
and other people try to exercise control, not just of them, but their things and what they perceive as their possessions. And so, if she's got a behavior arc that's arcing up in anger, rage, control, and it hits a tipping point there's going to be a potential violent outburst.
Mm-hmm.
And if it is indeed her, I would suspect that during the prosecution and the trial, you're going to see most likely other behaviors of anger, rage, and escalation throughout her lifespan, potentially, that culminated in this. Because again, as we see in these behaviors, it's very rare for people to go from 0 to 100. From 0, I'm calm, I'm loving, I'm caring, to all of a sudden, I'm going to kill someone. Just doesn't happen that way. So again, if it is her, there's been a behavior escalation that
Mm-hmm.
led to this.
And then we finally see it at some point break out. It doesn't necessarily have to have been a pattern in the past. At some point, people just hit something new. Is that kind of what I'm understanding?
Yeah, that there's been an escalation of a feeling of lack of control,
Mm-hmm.
and a lack of being recognized, and it just hit a tipping point, and this became a thing. But I'm with I from what we see and what we observe, it doesn't look like it's premeditated, because even the escape doesn't look very premeditated. As you said, it looks like it's something out of a movie that you've seen,
Mm-hmm.
which always in these cases kind of leaves you dumbfounded that if anyone watched your show or follow true crime anywhere else, you're already smarter than the average bear, as Yogi Bear used to say. And you wouldn't do these behaviors that are so evident that don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we cover, and I know we're going to hit a few more cases today. The same thing is like people are obviously doing, thankfully for law enforcement, the ones that are getting caught are very obviously doing the wrong things to get caught. And they're not, well, but let's not make a script and a scenario and a rule book for what people should or shouldn't do, because the ones that are getting caught are breaking out all of it. It's crazy.
Yeah. Hey, it's Tony Bruschi. If you want more of our interview with our guests, be sure to check out our podcast, Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Just search that wherever you download podcasts and press subscribe. Also, you can check out our YouTube channel for the full video version of the interviews as well, under the same name, Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Check it out, subscribe, binge, and enjoy. Thanks for watching.